Hello, I'm streaming executive producer Thomas Mates. Thank you for joining us here on Take 6. I'm filling in for Julie Broughton this week as she is away on spring break, but we appreciate you joining us nonetheless. We have a lot to get today, but we want to get started with some breaking news out of Virginia. There is what is being called a barricade incident outside of CIA headquarters, according to the Fairfax County Police there. Roads are shut down in the area, and you can see there is a heavy law enforcement presence. It looks as though there are tactical officers there with armored units out there as well. We are still working to learn some more about what is happening out there, but again, this is being called a barricade incident near CIA headquarters, according to the Fairfax County Police in Virginia. We'll try and bring you updates as they become available. Locally, we are now seeing a new traffic pattern in Orange County that is causing some headaches for drivers early this morning. It's brand new today. News 6's Stephanie Rodriguez shows us more about what is happening over at Darrell Carter Parkway, where it meets up with I-4.
So you drove on it this morning. What did you think of it?
I think it's very confusing.
I met some people near the new Divergent Diamond at Darrell Carter Parkway just hours after its debut.
It is a big change coming up right here where we used to be a small neighborhood sort of community. So I could see people being hesitant to the change.
This new Divergent Diamond is part of the I-4 interim project Beyond the Ultimate. The project is transforming the Darrell Carter Parkway overpass into an interchange that will provide additional access to local attractions, help relieve congestion, and add 3 new I-4 ramps. The change means left turns across traffic no longer exist, and there are less places for drivers to cross paths.
If you're like me and you find yourself in the car and you've never driven on a diverging diamond, I'm going to tell you how they work. You'll cross to the left side of the road at the first traffic light before crossing back to the right side of the road at the second signal. It can sound complicated and it will take time to adjust if you've never been on one, so make sure you're extra cautious of traffic signals. This is all meant to reduce traffic.
Do you feel when you're on it that traffic flows better?
I would say so. Again, like compared to how it was before, I could see it being a smoother process.
I think it's going to be chaotic for a little bit. It might help on the highway traffic because there's a new exit on the highway, but locally it's going to be more traffic.
The project is expected to be finished later this year. In Orlando, Stephanie Rodriguez, Getting Results, News 6.
I myself haven't checked out a diverging diamond in the area yet. I haven't had a chance to drive on one. It does look a little confusing. Our very own Trooper Steve had a little bit more of an explanation on the morning show today, and you can find that explanation on clickorlando.com and on the News 6 YouTube page. He breaks it all down for you, all the work that's being done in the area and how the diverging diamond works. Later today, the Fed is expected to make an announcement on interest rates. The Fed is expected to keep interest rates where they are, but may announce when they do plan to bring down interest rates another half point or so later on this year. For more on that, our News 6's Laverne McGee spoke with CBS business analyst Jill Schlesinger about what the Fed plans to do today and also about the job market here in the U.S.
The Federal Reserve is expected to make its latest decision on interest rates. Here with a preview is CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger. In January, the Federal Reserve kept rates steady. What's expected today?
Pretty much the same thing. I don't think the Fed's going to take any action. That would leave the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5%. So translating that to why you care, if you're a borrower, that means that rates are still high. And if you're a saver, that means rates are still high. So good news and bad news, depending on who you are. Now, the reason why we don't think there'll be any action is that the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, he recently said that the Fed doesn't need to be in a hurry. They kind of are looking for more clarity as to whether or not the Trump tariffs might slow down economic growth or create inflation. Until they get that clarity, they're not going to act.
Is the Fed worried about the recent drops in the stock market?
I think that the only reason the Fed really cares about the stock market dropping is if it was a sign of economic instability. So go back to COVID years, right? 5 years ago, the stock market was plummeting, not just because the market had run up. It was because the entire economy was shut down. So that would really worry the Fed if there were economic instability. The Fed might also be worried if there were some signs that markets weren't functioning in the proper way. I don't think that we are in either situation right now. Fed is really not going to be looking at the stock market as any sign of anything that they have to be worried about.
And we also know the Fed doesn't control mortgage rates, but can you tell us what's behind the recent drop in those mortgage rates?
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of nice, right? So we went from well above 7% for 30-year fixed rate loans to, around 6.5 to 6.75%. But I think the real rationale behind the drop in rates is due to the fact that bond investors, the ones that are investing for long term, they think that the U.S. economy could slow down, and that's why those interest rates have fallen on the longer term bonds. Now, normally, this would really help you when it comes to affordability. But right now, there is some concern that tariffs on lumber and aluminum and steel, that could make building or even renovating a house more expensive. According to the National Association of Home Builders, the rising cost of construction materials could add up to $9,200 for a typical home. And so, unfortunately, we're not getting any real help for the would-be buyers out there because lower mortgage rates are not being associated with affordability because we're facing higher prices.
That also makes us think about the last time we spoke with News 6. We discussed the jobs report. Can you explain to us the latest employment data?
Well, I mean, look, the issue that we are looking at in the labor force overall, big picture, is that, of course we know that government jobs have been cut, but otherwise we are seeing some changes in the employment landscape. I don't want to freak anyone out because this is not like the labor market is turning over in the meantime, in the near term. But what we are seeing is some of the pillars of growth that had added jobs in the economy are slowing down. Specifically, we are seeing some changes in leisure and hospitality, where those industries are slowing down some. We obviously know that government workers are slowing down some, and we're seeing some slowdown in construction. Again, this is not to say that there is like the alarm bell ringing in the background. We're just keeping an eye. And we have gone through these periods before where we have what's called a growth scare, where investors get really worried that all of a sudden growth is not going to be as good as previously thought, but then things bounce back. So I guess the main message here is that even if we do have a slowdown, and we are slowing down in this quarter versus the last quarter of last year, it doesn't mean that's the end of the economy. We really need to be patient and see how things develop.
Now, Laverne is working to see more about, take a deeper look at the Florida job market and wage growth here in the area. She'll have more on that coming up this afternoon on News 6. Before we head to break, I do want to take one look at one other story that is grabbing headlines across the country: the release of the JFK Files by the federal government. This was a campaign promise from President Donald Trump before he then candidate Donald Trump after RFK joined his would-be administration at the time. Now those files have been released. CBS News's Caitlin Huey Burns has been poring over those files, and here's what she's found so far.
More than 60 years after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the Trump administration released 80,000 pages of records to the public Tuesday night relating to his murder. Culling through the files is a tedious task. The scanned documents, many handwritten and going back over 60 years, can be at times difficult to read and decipher. Lee Harvey Oswald, the man who shot Kennedy in November of 1963, is mentioned 55 times in the documents, including in this 79-page summary of CIA surveillance operations that monitored Oswald's movements in Mexico City, where he visited the Russian and Cuban embassies ahead of the assassination. And in this letter, written in 1978, from a man to the British ambassador in Washington. In it, he says he told immigration officials in London that in July of 1963, just 4 months before the assassination, of a plan by Oswald to kill Kennedy. But so far, the trove of mostly unredacted files show there is nothing that changes he was the sole assassin.
The documents, they don't show conspiracy.
David Barrett, a professor of political science at Villanova University who studies the Kennedy presidency, says that while these files are not a smoking gun, they provide government transparency.
Maybe it will lessen the suspicion that the FBI or the CIA or some other government leader or agency were involved in a plot to kill Kennedy.
The Trump administration says the release represents a campaign promise kept, a promise he made the day Robert F. Kennedy Jr. endorsed him.
I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents on the Kennedy assassination, and we're going to do that.
And during a visit to the Kennedy Center on Monday, he announced they were ready to go.
So people have been waiting for decades for this. I don't believe we're going to redact anything.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, CBS News, Washington.
No doubt people will be poring over those documents for some time to come. It'll be interesting to see what conclusions people come to now that all that information is available. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes, taking a look at attacks on Tesla and Tesla vehicles across the country, and also how Orlando's police chief responded to the needs of one community in our area, in Orlando, and how that's getting results for the people there. That'll all be coming up in just about 2 minutes. Welcome back to Take 6. The time now is 12:43 on your Wednesday. Before we get into the rest of our news for today, we do want to check back on that breaking news we brought you at the top of the program. A barricade incident outside of CIA headquarters in Virginia. Again, this information coming from the Fairfax County Police there. They're referring to this as a barricade incident, but haven't provided more details as to what exactly happened. As you can see, there is a heavy police presence, including what appears to be SWAT officers or tactical units with armored vehicles, although it does look as though they are starting to load up. Perhaps things are winding down. We're not sure, though. We're still looking for more updates on this, and we'll bring those to you as they become available. Again, this is happening right now in Fairfax County, Virginia. According to the police there, this is a barricade incident near CIA headquarters, which has road shut down in the area. Excuse me. Across the country right now, attacks on Tesla and Tesla vehicles and Tesla dealerships are being investigated. The Attorney General, the federal Attorney General, has been promising to look into these as acts of potentially domestic terrorism. CBS News' Andres Gutierrez, has more on that story.
This fiery scene outside a Las Vegas Tesla repair shop shows multiple vehicles set ablaze just before 3 a.m. Tuesday. The word resist was spray painted on the front of the building.
We believe the suspect approached the business wearing all black clothing, and he used what appear to be Molotov cocktails and a firearm to conduct his attack.
Just hours earlier in Kansas City, 2 Tesla Cybertrucks were set on fire at a dealership. Elon Musk reacted last night on Fox News.
I think they're getting desperate because, I mean, the reason we're seeing this extreme amount of hatred and violence is because we're actually succeeding in getting rid of corruption and waste.
At least 15 reports of vandalism to Tesla vehicles and dealerships have been made in the U.S. this year.
I love Tesla.
While promoting Tesla last week, President Trump said vandals would be prosecuted as terrorists for targeting Musk's cars.
We're going to catch you, and you're going to go through hell.
It creates sympathy in a positive way for most folks.
Alexander Edwards is the president of automotive research and consulting firm Strategic Vision. He says while the vandalism might not hurt Tesla's brand, it needs a new strategy.
They absolutely can find some success coming out of this. But if you're going to aggressively attack those who were already in your camp and loved you, that's not a winning solution.
Andres Gutierrez, CBS News, Las Vegas.
Every Wednesday, News 6 anchor Eric Von Aken brings us his Protecting Our Communities series, which shows us how police departments and law enforcement are bridging the divide with communities all across Central Florida. This week, he's taking a look at Orlando, where the police chief responded to the community and brought back patrols to one part of the downtown area, the Paramore neighborhood. News 6's Eric Von Aken has more on that now.
It was an answer to a problem that ended up causing another problem. See, during the day, Orlando police officers on bicycles patrol this part of Paramore. But at night, on weekends, the police department was pulling those bike officers from this area to bolster the bike patrol here in downtown Orlando, which, of course, on weekends gets busy. That's when the crowds come out, which, as we've seen, can get out of control and even violent. But here's that inadvertent problem. Pulling the officers from here left Paramore vulnerable, and the police chief said he didn't even realize it until the people who live here told him about it.
And little by little, we developed the MacFall Neighborhood Association.
The people of Paramore,
I am the president of MacFall Neighborhood Association.
like Rashawn Moore, get together every few weeks to get results.
Neighborhood cleanup scheduled for May 6th.
Moore's neighborhood association points out problems and tries to tackle them. But when it comes to crime, so many of the solutions
But we have so much more to improve.
must involve police. So Moore invited officers, and they started coming, even the chief.
I believe in those meetings. I want to know if you feel like you're over-policed, under-policed, you need more enforcement.
What have you shared with the chief during your meetings?
Suspicious activities, people in the community that are doing things that they should not be doing.
Chief Smith tells me he was at a community one night when people said to him, hey, you can't abandon us. You can't take away those bike officers from us on weekends. So the chief substituted his tactical unit for those bike officers.
So once I heard that, I realized, well, that's not good. Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights are big nights. So what we did in our budget, we added a TAC unit. So our TAC unit is basically an anti-crime unit, and they fight violent crime.
Have you seen that change now that he's placed officers back here on a Friday and Saturday night?
The crime has went down.
They seize a lot of firearms, they stop a lot of violent crimes that are in our Paramore community, and you've really seen the crime in Paramore substantially drop.
4 times a year, the chief gets to every community meeting in every district that OPD serves. So that's 6. And if you'd like to catch up with him and tell him how he can get results for you, not only is his schedule online, but just last month I told you about this OPD app where he posts his schedule so you know exactly where the chief is going to be and when he's going to be there. Protecting our community in Paramore, Eric Von Aken, getting results. News 6.
A great story, and you can find more about that on clickorlando.com. Before I let you go for the day, we do want to get a quick check on the weather. It is a gorgeous day outside, although it is supposed to be heating up a bit. But we are expecting another cold front to come through. Michelle Morgan, News 6 meteorologist Michelle Morgan, has more on that for you.
Happy Wednesday. I'm News 6 meteorologist Michelle Morgan. Thank you so much for heading over to clickorlando.com. In our Pinpoint Weather app, I have some great weather for you as we go through the next several days. Area of high pressure parked over parts of Georgia today, and that's going to keep things generally quiet as we go through the next couple of days or so. Tracking a cold front off to our north and west, it will be rather weak when it passes through central Florida on Thursday, and really not much rain associated with it, but it is going to kick up our winds as we go about our Thursday Thursday afternoon. Tracking a little bit of fog across the peninsula. You may run into it as you're heading along the I-4 corridor and our coastal spots, so make sure you're allowing extra time to get to your destination safely. As we take a look at your hour-by-hour forecast, dealing with a little bit of fog through the morning hours, it is chilly with temperatures in the upper 40s, by 8 lower 50s, and hitting a daytime high of 84 degrees in Orlando. For the rest of Central Florida, we're in the upper 70s in Palm Coast, Daytona Beach, and middle 70s Cape Canaveral, upper 70s in Melbourne, and out to the west, the Villages at 83, 84 in Wildwood, and 84 degrees in Lakeland. Now your clouds and rain forecast looking pretty good as we go through today. We'll see abundant sunshine as we go through the morning hours as well as the afternoon hours, and winds will be nice and light as we go through today. So here's a look at your 7-day forecast, getting you results. 84 today, 56 tonight. Our weak cold front moves through on Thursday, and Thursday is the first day of spring. I am calling for a 20% chance for a few sprinkles with a high of 83. 72 on Friday. Weekend forecast looking fantastic. 79 on Saturday, 84 on Sunday. Another front moves through on Monday, bumping up those rain chances to 30%.
Looking good for the forecast for the rest of the week. I mean, a little bit of rain in the future, but, you know, we probably need it, especially with some of the fires we've been seeing around our area. That'll do it for us here on Take 6. We will be back for News 6 at 4 with all your weather and headlines for the day. Thank you so much for watching, and have a pleasant day.